Thank you. That was beautiful. Shelby's singing a song that was written by her Aunt Valerie. She's a Unity minister as well, Valerie Gunch. She's the minister at Unity of Richmond. We get to see her fairly often. It's Shelby's father's sister. They keep all that music in the family, and apparently our Unity leanings as well. Apparently. It was beautiful. Thank you. And then before I began, I wanted to also say something else that Tammy and I were speaking about this morning. That is that this week I'd been thinking about the spirit groups. And those are groups that Unity Worldwide had recommended several years ago, and they're in use in a lot of the larger churches, like Unity of Houston, some of those really big ones where they have large congregations. But what they've recommended is, and we have a lot of resources here too, if anyone wanted to do it, but they had recommended that if there are groups that are geographic, for instance, you all live in Bay St. Louis, or you live in the Pass, or you live in D'Iberville, or wherever, that you might want to form a circle of friends that you get together regularly. And what happens is you form a community and you get to know each other really well. We noticed this too when we had our little Unity Foundations class, that just the few weeks that we got together on Zoom at 9:30 every Saturday morning, by the end of those few weeks, we knew each other so much better, so much like with Jennifer and Keith. Who would have known they had such lovely dogs in their house that just kept going right in front of the camera the whole time? It's really cool. You get to know each other so much better, but you all think about it. It may be something you'd like to do and to form. And then Tammy had another suggestion, and that is that the book, The Quest, it's usually a year-long curriculum, but it could be used too as a study guide. But anyway, just think about that. I was thinking about how good we are here at companioning each other. And there are different times we do need companionship in our lives. And it's just good to know each other well enough to get in touch. And we used to, long before, well, I guess this was before the pandemic, on Tuesday morning, a large group of us would get together for a book study. Then we'd have a prayer team, and then I miss those times. We had a 9:00 group for a while that studied A Course in Miracles, and that was quite successful too. But we recognize that time changes, goes on, doesn't it? And things change. And so do the demographics of our congregation. We were talking about that this morning, about how you wake up one morning, go look in the mirror, and you say, now, where did all the years go? Surely that's not me. I'm me, the I that I am, as a 35-year-old. And she's just still walking around kicking it, and then you look in the mirror and you say, my goodness, we didn't think it would happen to us, did we? That was someone else that was going to get older. Anyway, just several things that we might think of to continue the needs of our spiritual community, whether it's on Zoom or however we do it. We can certainly know more, get to know each other better, and companion each other. And what happens if we do it individually is that we start doubling up on a few people. And, you know, it's like everybody goes to see so-and-so in the hospital, but no one ever went to call what's her name that's up here, lonely as she can be, or what's his name, or, you know. So it'd be good if we could get together in those efforts and not just double up on a few. They're going to get sick of seeing us or hearing from us, you know. It's like, go away, leave me alone, I just want to get better now. So that can happen too. So we don't want to double or triple up on the same people, but if we can companion others. So last week I spoke about the different senses that we have, and this week I wanted to sort of pull it all together and using all of our senses. And we all know the term coming to my senses. And we've heard that all of our lives, and what it means is that I've been off on a tangent or something and crazy, and now I'm just going to come back to, usually it's meant to say, quit daydreaming and come back to your logic, right? Well, we're going to expand that a little bit today because we know so much more than was ever known about consciousness. We know so much more today than was ever known when people talked about senses. When they first talked about senses, they, for instance, said there were 5 senses. The your hearing, your sight, sound, touch, smell, taste. But we've also heard about that 6th sense, and it sort of encompasses everything and has been called intuition or 6th sense of knowing. So it's pretty all comprehensive of those things. But what I wanted to talk about for a few minutes is full-bodied awareness. How do we know? How do we accept this larger consciousness that is ours? For instance, we have a brain, and that brain is an organ in the body, right? But it's not the same thing as the mind, is it? Does anybody know the difference between the brain and the mind? The mind, when we talk about being mindful, what we're talking about is we're including all of us in that. Our wisdom, our understanding, knowledge, all of those things that come into the information that's fed into our brain, and then our brain interprets it. Well, the brain only interprets it according to our own thought process and our beliefs. And sometimes those beliefs are pretty narrow, aren't they? We've built boundaries around ourselves, and we're just going to allow that interpretation to come through that. And that's based on all those biases that we have had all of our lives. But being mindful and using our mind means that we're using all of our consciousness to be mindful, not just the brain, but all of those senses, And they know now there are a whole lot more, dozens and dozens more senses than those that are mentioned: sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. So many more. For instance, our sense of balance, our way of knowing where we are in the universe, our ability to take a step without looking at our feet. We're sensing where we are. Our sense of time. We always have a sense of what time it is, don't we? And so there are just so many more senses, and they're real too, in addition to those that we talked about last week. But usually what we're talking about when we say coming back to our senses, we know how that is. I read sometimes stories by emergency room physicians. You should read some of these stories that are just so incredible. They're and emergency room physicians, boy, we need to really salute them, because they are people that have dedicated their lives to being on call continually. They never know what's coming in the door, but they do know they're going to be ready for it, and they're going to do everything they can to save that life. Isn't that amazing? Everything they can. So their 12-hour shift is usually what they're working that entire time. They're finishing, they're focused right here on this one. That's their priority, knowing that something much worse might come in the door. One fella that I've read a lot of his stories, he's really funny, has a sense of humor. He said you have to keep a gallows humor if you're going to work there, and I'm sure you do, just to be able to cope with it. But he said a lot of the accidents that he sees, especially with grown men, is that they're prefaced by, hey, you think that's something? Wait a minute, here, hold my beer. And the next thing you know, there's a terrible accident. He says he can't tell you how many come in the emergency room door when they've just heard that statement. But one thing, so there, coming back to your senses, sometimes that's good if you've done something crazy like that. And usually alcohol doesn't work well if you want to be in full control of yourself and your consciousness, or other mind-numbing drugs. Alcohol doesn't work well with that. We know that. But another one, and this is something we can fall into easily. A man and a woman were in critical condition, and I don't know if they ever did recover. Their internal organs just about shut down because they had the bright idea. They were out in the park and they saw some snails, and they decided that'd be a great idea. Maybe they'd have some escargot. Nearly killed them. Didn't know by preparing those snails they were poisonous. And so it was just interesting to me how many stories, when you're reading through these emergency room encounters that the medical staff have, how many of those were caused by not being mindful. Doing things you really should have done if you had been thinking correctly, wisely, done a little research, checked on, looked on the internet. You could find out a lot of information quickly. And then the gateways to perception, we know those we just talked about, the function of our senses. We know how wonderful it is, what a gift it is. Think of it this moment. Just stop for a moment and think what a gift your eyesight is. Isn't that a gift? Aren't you glad you have your eyesight? You see these little reels of a child that was almost blind, and they put glasses on the little baby, and they see their mother or father's face for the first time, and this wonderful laugh and smile just breaks out all over them. It's just how amazing that is, our eyesight, hearing, touch. All of these things, all of the things we're thankful for, even when we feel that we're hungry, that's a gift, isn't it? We feel that we're thirsty, isn't that a gift? When we feel we're too hot, we're too cold. All these gifts that we have, And we really don't even give them much thought, do we? We ought to get up every day and say that we're thankful for those physical gifts that we have. And we're also thankful for those innate gifts, the gifts of wisdom, discernment, and understanding, the understanding that comes from using all of those gifts together with our knowledge, our wisdom. I remember one of the co-founders of Unity, Charles Fillmore, he felt odd because he had done, because of his wife's healing that came from her close encounter, her experience knowing God and inviting God in and experiencing that and knowing what that felt like. He started studying it scientifically, and he knew everything he could know intellectually about the subject. But he still said, I want the experience of God. I want to know what that feels like right here, right now in my heart. I want to know that. I don't want that knowledge to be up here only. That's helpful. That's helpful, all that scientific knowledge, the intellectual decision making. He said, I want to know what it feels like to know God. And he did. He sat in meditation until he made it happen. And God came in to his heart, just the way we talk about it on Sundays, and he felt God. He felt at oneness. He felt the peace that surpasses all other understanding by allowing God in, the Spirit, whatever it is that we want to call it. There's the inner response, isn't there? We know that we have feelings too. And there's a whole field of study now. They call it emotional intelligence, or EI. And so much was never known about this previously. I know when I was growing up, they sure didn't know much about that. Just, parents would say, well, just be quiet, you'll get over it. Or, sit over there for a while and just be quiet. Just be quiet. And they didn't realize that, people's emotions, how important it is, and how important it is for us to learn about our own emotional intelligence and how it affects us in every single way. Our feelings, how we express them, joy, sadness, peace, anxiety, awe, love, and gratitude. How they affect us. And so many times it's our thoughts that will make us feel that way. We can change our thought, can't we? And instead of thinking, oh, this is never going to get better. For instance, someone in the hospital, and they start thinking, boy, this is just the start of my downfall. I am never going to get better. It's only going to get worse. How's that going to make you feel? Next thing you know, you're going to feel hopeless. But I experienced such awe and reverence and gratitude and peace of heart and mind, just sitting there every single morning, drinking that great cup of coffee and watching the sun come up. It just made my day. I felt, speaking of feelings, okay, emotional intelligence. It made me feel healthy and whole and confident and able to take on anything in the world. It just was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experience. And I'm not saying that's what you need to do. I'm just saying we need to give ourselves time to reflect and to notice, how's this making me feel? That's what emotional intelligence is. And it is a sense, all of our feelings, they're given to us by the divine so that we can make our way in the world. And you know what I'm talking about. Somebody invites you to a meeting and then you accidentally say no or yes, and then when you meant to say no, and then later you're thinking about it and you get a knot in your stomach. What's that trying to tell you? That's emotional intelligence. Did you know that? That knot in your stomach? It means, uh-oh, I did it again. I'm still learning. I'm still learning. And then sometimes we realize that we need to move past that. But our emotions are there for a reason, and emotional intelligence has become a field of study. And they actually are working between emotions and healing physically, healing every other kind of way. And here's what we want to feel. We want to feel joyful, grateful. We want to feel calm and peaceful. Isn't that what we all want? I'm sure it's why we're here this morning. It's what we all want, isn't it? We all want to feel at peace no matter what's going on in the world. We're looking for some spiritual tips to help us do that toward spiritual living. And there is a spiritual clarity that comes only from being in harmony with the divine. And you will find that to be true. If you're feeling all nervous, you're not aligned with God, are you? If you're feeling resentful, you're not in alignment with God. If you're feeling anxious, sad, worried, concerned, you're not in harmony with God. And once you can take a deep breath, you can align with God, no matter what. No matter what's going on around you, you can find the peace that goes beyond all understanding. You'll find that you can be at peace in the middle of a storm. Go ahead and let all the others be worried and concerned, angry, fearful, thinking the world's going to come to an end at any moment. That's okay, it might, but I'm going to go out peacefully, I guarantee you that. So I guess coming back to your senses so I can bring this all the way around to where we started. When I'm in harmony with God, I don't have to chase peace. I become it. If I can find peace within, if I can find that place where I can find harmony and alignment with God, the divine, I've come back to all of my senses, all of them, all of my senses, all my feelings, all my emotions, all my thoughts, if I can align them with the divine, I can have peace in my life. And I think you can too. Thank you for your time.